Evening, everybody. Happy after Christmas, after New Year's. We're into the new year. Isn't that absolutely amazing? And look we did it, right? It's been a rough couple of years, right? It's not to say we're not out of it yet or that we are out of it yet, but we adapt, we conquer. And you know what? We got through the past 2 years. It can't get much worse than that. You know what? If we're going to have another bad year, we'll get through the next one too. And if it happens to gain the year after that, we're going to do it. We're also going to have an amazing year. Evening, Owen. Evening, Andrew. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. My desk is not quite ready for my live tonight. I just came down from my sister's apartment. Man, that girl loves craft dinner. I never met anybody who liked craft dinner like she does. She should be like the poster child for craft dinner. Pay her big bucks because she truly, truly loves it, loves it. And again, I would think that there's an emotional connection to the craft dinner. I mean, craft dinner is really good, but not so good that you would compulse about it, that you would be happy to have it every single day in place of any other meal. And I would assume it has something from our childhood as kids. We grew up on craft dinner. We ate lots of craft dinner, and believe me, I don't know how many of you out there actually ate craft dinner as children, but the craft dinner they have today is not even half as good as it was in the 70s. Oh my goodness, it was twice as cheesy. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Owen. Happy New Year, Andrew. How did you manage with your New Year? How was your New Year? What did you guys do? I didn't do anything. I basically stayed home. I had a bit of a health scare. I thought I had coronavirus, and I just wanted to make sure I got better. I worked all week. All right, the spaghetti. 100%. I love the Kraft spaghetti sauce. That was a really good spaghetti sauce. Yeah, I didn't do anything for New Year's Eve. But even if there wasn't, shutdowns going on and health crises, I probably still wouldn't be that person that would be out partying. New Year's Eve in my 20s and early 30s, it would be a big thing because, we were always looking for an excuse to party and get together with our friends. But as I've grown older and enjoyed my own time alone, I always find for the most part that I'm in bed long before the fireworks even started. I was actually surprised. I was sitting here around 10 o'clock in the evening and fireworks were going off at the legislative building, which I think is kind of nice because it's hard for the kids to stay up till midnight, isn't it? Hi, Kathy. Oh, that does sound good, Owen. Shrimp, chicken, and sausage. I made a roast beef dinner. I pulled out a roast beef. Roast was on sale. I usually buy my meat to what was on sale for the week. And last week the roast beefs were on sale, so I knew it was Christmas week and I was going to have some time off. So I picked up a roast beef for myself to enjoy, a special treat. Like I do like red meat. If it's it has to be very, very well cooked. It has to almost look not like meat anymore, right? Because I do have a problem. I think I would make a very good vegetarian, but there are certain meats that I just love. And most of those meats, when you think about it, I've said this many times, the meats that I like, they're processed meats. It's like ground beef and sausages, wieners, meat like that, beef jerky, like meat that doesn't look like meat. So I think it is a psychological thing rather than being put off by blood or anything like that. I just don't want to recognize it as something that was living at some point. But to each his own, right? To each his own. I do a lot of studying and I watch a lot of videos, a lot of travel videos, and I've seen as of late, I've been getting back into them. And there were some really good explorers that I really thought had some really good morals about them, that were doing their presentations on YouTube with morals and respect for the people and the countries that they were visiting. And so finding these guys and seeing them, how they're representing through their values and telling a true story, a genuine story. Like the Indigo Traveler, I've been following him lately, and he just came out of Nigeria. Nigeria supposedly is a very difficult place to live, where there's lots of kidnappings and lots of crime and stuff. And yet he went in there and he showed the amazing parts of these people that live in this country too, right? But he does it for all over the world. And there's this other guy, Boulder, that I used to watch. And like I said, I've been, for the past week while I've been on holidays, I picked up watching their explore videos again. I think getting for the feel of me getting back onto the road and how I want to put my videos together for my YouTube channel. Because I know for the first part of getting back on the road, I'm going to end up doing pretty simple videos because I don't like editing videos. I'm not very good at it. It puts me in a frame of mind where I don't enjoy what I do because it's something that's really not fun and it takes up a lot of time. And it's good training, though. It is good training, especially it keeps you on a time crunch, right? When you're trying to get your videos out and you got to get them video edited so that they could be uploaded on time. And I used to upload my videos on Sundays, right? And then when I couldn't upload my videos on Sundays, I do them like once a month. And then it got to the point where I started my live shows, and I would do my live shows every few weeks or so. And then that wasn't enough. I started doing my live shows weekly here on YouTube. I wanted my YouTube channel to always be about Mother Nature, about the exploring, sharing the mindset and the mindfulness, but combining it with the explorers, right? And I guess I shut myself down completely when I saw I didn't have that car and I couldn't get on the road to do those kind of outdoor explorers that I wanted to do. I just said, well, fine then, and I'm just gonna go live. And then all of a sudden I find that on Sunday nights, how long have we been doing this now? Hanging out together on Sunday nights, and I've been really, really enjoying it and very appreciative and grateful because I love this YouTube community. Like, I truly, truly, truly am a Google girl, and I am in love with my brand. And YouTube is where I started off, and YouTube is where I would like to be. But somehow I ended up on Instagram with my daily videos, and I think it was probably part of the plan. It was a good platform for me to practice and to learn, right, on how I presented my brand and how I wanted to do. And also it gave me content every week. It kept me going. Yeah, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for my YouTube channel, and I'm grateful for all of you guys that encourage me to show up every Sunday. Angry Birds, hi dear. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Hi, Kathy, Andrew, Owen. Who else is here? Pop in, say hi. These are my main moderators, but you're going to notice that I have lots of moderators. They're just such amazing people with big hearts. And if you want to come and hang out, and if you've never hung out with me before, Sunday night, we go live here every Sunday night. Everybody is welcome. All kinds. It takes all kinds to make the world. We have topics ranging. Oh my goodness. We'll pretty much touch on anything, won't we? We have such great big open minds here, not just open hearts, but we have great big open minds. And if you pop in and you say hi, right? Oh, Andrew, You're sweet. No, thank you for everything. But yeah, oh, Dave's here too. Hi, Dave. Happy New Year, everybody. Everybody, we got, like I said, we got through the past couple of years, haven't we? Maybe not with flying colors, but we did move forward. We did better by ourselves. I could show you guys what's going on outside. I think we got a snowstorm that's about to start happening, but it's so dark outside. The only reason I'm noticing the storm starting is because of the street light, and I could see the wind and the snow blowing in the light from the street light. But it's really neat, right? I live here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. If you've never hung out with us before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and here on YouTube on Sunday night, we kind of hang out here and we talk about whatever. Because you know what? It's about holding each other up. It's about making friends, making a community, letting the community create itself, right? And getting to know each other, right? It's so often that we isolate ourselves. And again, I'm just as guilty as everybody else by making my own self my own best friend. I don't spend a lot of time in my own social life with other people, right? I use my work life when I go to work and I'm doing all my social interactions. I'm doing that at work. And then on my days off, it's time for me. And I'm very grateful. Like right now, I can say I'm grateful. I've never had the experience of having children. So, having kids screaming at me or having the responsibility of making sure the dinner's on the table for them or spending my paychecks on buying clothes and school supplies. Like I've never had that experience. So in that, I'm grateful for the allowance and the free time that is given to me for me, right? That I don't have those kinds of pressures. I'm not very good with screaming babies. I'm good with kids, right? Once kids are talking, I love kids, right? But I want to be able to interact with kids. I want to be able to have conversations. And because I don't have children on my own, like I said, that I don't have things tying me down from the things that I want to do. The only things tying me down for the things that I want to do are my own mindset, and of course the resources that it takes, right? And I understand that it's a process, but I believe so much that if I just keep going, even if I just bumble along, that an opportunity is going to present itself. And yeah, look out, because the ideas and the creativity, right, will come flowing, and you never know. And then hopefully you guys can say, oh, I knew Cindy when, right? I knew Cindy when she was almost homeless, right? I knew Cindy when she had to use her toaster to keep her feet warm because they cut off the hydro on her, right? I knew Cindy when she was best friends with her sister. And then I knew Cindy when her sister took her car away and she had to fend for herself, right? I knew Cindy when, right? And this is the amazing thing, because I am using my platforms. I'm in a learning process and learning for what I don't know, but I think I've been doing pretty good at feeling my way through the process. I really do. And I think I haven't been letting it uh, emotionally break me down, even though it has been tough. You guys have been with me. You've seen how tough it is and how scary it is when you come that close to the edge. But I hope now, with my mindset the way it is now, that it's getting a lot better, and we'll never ever ever get ourselves in those situations again, right? But we know we will, right? Because we adapt, we conquer, right? Obstacles are thrown in our way. It's always a struggle. I expect it to always be a struggle, right? And I don't expect that I'm always going to understand what the struggle is in the moment. So, yeah, I just take my time, go slowly, figure it out, chip away at the obstacle, and slowly break through into whatever's next. It almost sounds like a video game, doesn't it? Yeah. Is there snow going on? It's minus 40 Celsius here in Winnipeg. Let me just check the temperature with the wind chill. For sure it is, but let me see. Oh, it's warming up now. It's warming up now because this morning it was minus 30 without the wind chill. It's minus 24 with the wind chill, so it's not so bad here. Holy moly, Owen, that sounds really nice. That's weather that you could go outside with a long sleeve shirt on without even a jacket. That sounds really nice. Not here in Winnipeg. It is cold. I was out earlier today. It was minus 30, but it warmed up quite a bit, and now it's dark outside. I expect with the snow coming down now that it might insulate it a little bit. So those milder temperatures might stay. I don't know. I was actually quite surprised to see that it was only minus 18. I did do my live show today on Instagram. For those of you who go in and watch my Instagram live show each day, I did do a live show today, and I was having an interesting conversation with a gentleman from Iran. And yeah, the power went out on my phone right in the middle of the live. So I lost my live show. I was going to come back in and do another live show later on in the day. And then I said, nah, right? You did your live show because I talked for a long time, a couple hours anyway. And then I just thought, no, Cindy, it's your day off. You have these couple of days off. You've been going for a couple of days. It's time for you to just flake out and enjoy your days off. Tomorrow, well, that's another story. Oh, wait, no, tomorrow will be a day off. Tuesday will be a little bit of running around. I'm finishing up my lease for next year. I got a really great deal on my apartment. Grateful for next year that I'll be able to comfortably put a roof over my head no matter what. So at the very least, I'm grateful for that I'll always know that there's a roof over my head, that I'll never get myself in that most desperate situation like I did last year, right? 2022. No, last year, because it was the year before, you guys. The year before. Last year was great. 2021. I got to go to Thunder Bay, Ontario. I got to rent that beautiful Jeep car. Oh, you guys, I got to show you my hat. I got a new toque. It's a Jeep toque to go with my new truck when I get my truck. So I bought the toque. It was only $1.50. I got it at work, but it was brand new. It still had the price tag on it. So I just said, well, I'll buy that. Thank you very much. It's my new toque to go with my new truck when it arrives. I expect it's on its way, and I'll be getting it shortly. I look forward to looking out the window and seeing it downstairs with a big bow on it. I'll know it. I'll know it's for me 100%. Yes, it was a wonderful Christmas. It was a great New Year. It was nothing special, right? But it was special because it's a part of our life, right? We celebrate this holiday once a year. We make it as memorable as we can. I'll remember this past Christmas 100%. Oh, I didn't. Let me give you your carpet, baby. There you go. I went and I swept and washed my floors, but I got carpets on the floor so that my cat can jump onto a carpet rather than falling onto the linoleum, because she's an awfully big cat, and she's got little teeny weeny bony little skinny legs, right? So I don't want to come home and see that she's What's a Ukrainian? A Ukrainian block heater. That's pretty funny. We have lots of Ukrainians here in Manitoba. Up north, yeah, tons of Ukrainians. They all immigrated here when they were being persecuted in the Ukraine. And actually, when they got here to Manitoba, they wanted to establish their own church. Now, of course, they wanted to keep it Orthodox and within their faith, but they just wanted to separate themselves from the Russian Orthodox. So they actually worked and went through the process of actually establishing their own church. So yeah, they have Canadian Ukrainian Orthodox churches here now in Canada, and yeah, and it's thriving. That community is thriving. That community is thriving so well that even 150 years later, that 25% of that community still speaks their mother tongue, right? When Canada is English speaking and bilingual French, but yet these immigrants that came here 125 years ago, they aren't, but their children and their children's children picking up the language and keeping that traditions and community, Ukrainian community alive. It's absolutely amazing. This is one thing I love about Manitoba. There's lots of things I love about Manitoba. What I love about the prairies, and about how they because even though people got to come to Canada, it was kind of blocked out already. They knew where they were going to establish the towns. They knew where they were going to build the infrastructure, where they were going to build the roads. Now, lots of these towns and villages, they were actually torn apart and moved, but moved specifically so that they could be closer to the railroad, right? Because the railroad was the lifeline of the prairies. And, they didn't know when they set up these towns, they had no idea where the railroad was going to come through. And if they were a mile or 2 miles away from the railroad, well, they would have no problem picking up an entire town and just moving it right to another site in order to have access to those facilities, because like I said, they were the lifeline of the communities, right? And that's why we do have a lot of ghost towns here in the prairies also, is because they did a lot of that, picking up the towns and moving it. But lots of times they would leave the buildings behind because maybe there would be one or two residents who would decide to hang out in these villages and small communities, and they would use these buildings for I don't know, grain, hay, right? Storage. Maybe somebody else would decide they wanted that remote country life and decide that, hey, there's a house. Maybe I could just move in there, right? I don't know. The land, I'm sure, would still been owned, whoever would have purchased the property originally. But yeah, we adapted, we conquered, and these were trauma-stricken people that came in from the Ukraine. Most of the people that immigrated to Canada were stricken with some kind of trauma, whether it was economical, social, emotional. They were right, or they were just oppressed, right? Oppressed by their countries and their situations. And we are just starting to feel better because Cindy believes in epigenetics. I do understand that these traumas are brought down the family line from one generation to the next generations. Some of these things are traditions and habits, right? Because you could say, well, this is my family tradition. This is how we decorate the tree, or this is the ornament that we put on top of the tree, or this is my mother's favorite recipe. It's the best chocolate cake in the world, and it's come through generations to generations. See, and these are traditions and cultures that are just passed down from generations to generations, right? But I don't know what I was talking about there, but I was going off on something. Congratulations. Yes, 100%. Congratulations, Dave. But that's what I was saying too, right? I never had kids. I like kids. I never had kids. But I'm grateful that I'm able to move forward without those kind of stresses, without those responsibilities. And, not passing down some of those epigenetics, right? Some of those epigenetics that were brought down in my family. And lots of you know my story and stuff, right? But again, today's not the day to talk about those stories. But again, right? It's passed down from generation to generation. And I do believe it's not just in the habits, not just in the traditions of the family that get passed down, but I think something in the blood, something in the genetics, right, is passed down. And genetically, we are, I think, as a community, kind of traumatized over right, just even the past couple of years, how traumatized we are. We have all been affected by the past couple of years, whether we admit it or not. Every single one of us on this planet, right? And I think a big part of this is, I feel like it's some sort of test to see how we were going to manage, right? Emotionally, are we going to take care of ourselves and just move together and build community and help each other as a community to get through it, right? That's a big part of this channel. That's a big part of this showing up here on Sunday nights too, is just that extra support that we all have, right? That congratulations on being a grandpa, or that I'm so sorry to hear, right, about your illness or your family members passing away. Like, it's just that extra support that makes all the difference in the world, right? We have no idea what people go through in their lives. And a lot of our biggest sufferings in our lives, we suffer alone, right? Just because we think people don't understand. But even if people don't understand, we don't like to see people suffering. So sometimes all we can do is just kind of hang out together, right? And just support each other in our each other's miseries, right? Wasn't that something? Oh, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that church. That was a village. That's what that was. That was an abandoned ghost town that I went into. And there were two churches not 100 feet apart from each other. One was a Catholic church, Catholic Ukrainian church, and the other church was a Ukrainian Orthodox church. And that's the one that Andrew's talking about. Now, if you could find that link, Andrew, in my YouTube channel and find that video, you could paste it in here, right? The link to it, paste the link into it. And then everybody who wants to see that video, who hasn't seen it yet, it was a really good video, really good explore. I explored two churches, this small ghost town. It had two churches. It had a graveyard and it had a community hall. The community hall had fallen in on itself. I couldn't get inside, but I stood in the doorway and we kind of peeked at all the growth coming up. The two churches were still standing. Both doors were broken open, right? The back door was open on one, and the front door was opened on the other one. The beautiful color of the paint job in that church was amazing. But that robe, when I came across that robe, I knew it was a vestment. Like, I knew how disrespectful that was, and how somebody could have left something behind just to be so neglected, because obviously some church member had gone through the trouble of doing all that gold embroidery work and all the stitching and the embroidery and stuff on it. It was a magnificent piece. Well, it wasn't when I found it, because there was actually a dead bird that was already carcassed and it was stuck to the fabric when I found it. It Animals had been sleeping on it and going to the bathroom on it. But I still remember folding it up and putting it in a Safeway bag. I left a note in it, right, for the next person who came to explore, to take it into Dauphin, right? To take it into Dauphin and maybe drop it off at the museum, even in the police station or something, for safekeeping, right? Yeah, I love that Explorer. There's so many parts of that Explorer. I have all that footage of those Explorers too. And I edited those videos to make those videos. But I could have edited it differently because I filmed all kinds of stuff. I filmed the sun. I wanted to stay until the sun came down in that little village. I was way out nowhere. There was nowhere. There was a farmer out in his field, and every once in a while he would drive by and he would wave. He would wave at me, but it was starting to get dark, and I wanted to stay until the sunset so that I could take a sunset video of the churches and the graveyard and everything. And I was so excited. I had my camping chair out, my drinks, and I was just enjoying. I went into the farm fields and I was looking for arrowheads, right? Oh, it was so much fun. It was a great day. And then the sun was starting to come down and I was getting all excited. I went to grab my camera, and as soon as the sun started to go down, as soon as the sunset started to get down, the bugs and the mosquitoes came out. I could not stand outside for not 5 minutes, or it would have been like Piranha Town. Like it would have been like piranhas, and I would have been eaten alive. Oh, and I scooted out of that town so fast. But I made a promise that the next year I would come out with my lawnmower and some, wildflower seeds and stuff, and fix up the graveyard, because it didn't look like anybody had been to the graveyard in years to do any work on it, right? But I never did get back to that church. I'll definitely make another trip up there. Definitely 100% I'll make another trip out there. But I think with the explosion of urban exploration, I think a lot of these, and I was reading a couple of articles online about how some of these farms here in Manitoba, they actually had to burn down the homesteads. They had to burn down the homesteads because there were so many urban explorers traipsing through their wheat fields and their sunflower seeds, whatever their crops were ruining, like driving their vehicles right into the fields to get to these old homesteads. So after putting up with it for so many years, a lot of the farmers got fed up and they just burnt down these old homesteads. It's kind of sad that they did it, but I mean, that's their property and they have every right to do that. And you can perfectly understand, because a lot of the urban explorers were not asking for permission to take a look at the property, and they weren't even interested in the history of the area. Right now, there's a ghost town by a town called Plumas. I found it. It's by one of the colonies, right? I know it was probably the original colony, and like I said, how they moved villages and stuff closer to the railway. I think the colony had gotten too old, and was time to move forward, and they just moved the colony just a little bit away from this one ghost town. So I know I would have to ask probably one of the heads or one of the members of the colony if I could explore this village, because I'm sure this was one of their colonies. But yeah, there is a ghost town. I never got the opportunity, but I did stumble onto it, and it looked pretty magnificent. All the buildings were standing, and not only the buildings were standing, they had let all the trees grow up around them, so you couldn't see the village. You couldn't tell. But because I was specifically looking for abandons when I was out on the back roads and stuff, there were lots of hints, lots of things that I did, right? There were lots of ways for me to find my explorers, looking at the tread in the driveways, looking at electrical, looking at vegetation, looking at road markers. And yeah, there were lots of things that I did, looking at trees, patches of trees in the middle of flatlands and stuff where it didn't make sense for them to be there, because being in the prairies, you wouldn't have patches of tree growth or anything unless it was to protect something from the wind. That was the idea in the day, to grow these. They would go down to the riverbanks and pick up all these seedlings and take them to their properties, and they would plant them. And this is how we got trees and stuff in the prairies, because the farmers actually believed that they needed to be protected from the sun, because the prairies are just wide open, right? Wide open. So yeah, when you go driving down the highway in the prairies, you'll see these patches of forest growth all over the place. About like a city block squared, right? Like a city block squared, and they're all over the place. But it's not natural for the growth to grow like that, because yeah, prairie growth is very, very flat. Oh, 100%. But I've been doing a lot of bottle digging in the past couple of years too, Andrew, and I've been really enjoying the bottle digging, and I have a lot of amazing things that I've picked out of that bottle dump. Oh my goodness, some really amazing things. And that bottle dump is from 1870 to 1910. And yeah, I found some amazing bottles, amazing pottery. Yeah, ornaments, porcelain doll parts, right? Because the strings would have, because in those days the parts would have been strung together with strings, but over the course of being buried in the dirt, the strings disintegrated. So I find the arms and the legs and the heads and the torso separately all the time. Yeah, yeah. I like I said, I can understand, Andrew, how frustrating it would be for the farmers, and it wasn't giving them much choice, right? It wasn't giving them much choice as to, because you have to protect your property at the same time. And you're right, it is 100% disrespectful, right, and very costly, right? Because here in Manitoba, we're not just feeding our province. This is Manitoba. This is the prairies, right? And in Canada, uh, Patterson and Sons, they're in charge. They make sure that we're feeding the world. So we're not just feeding the cities. We're making flour. We're growing wheat, and we ship it. We distribute it to all over the world, right? So it's an amazing thing that we do. But yeah, but we're pretty agricultural here in the prairies. Our ground is so good. It's so fertile. It used to be a great sea, right? So there's a lot of sediment, a lot of fossil degeneration that's fertilizing the soil. Yeah. Here, even in the Winnipeg Lake, they're trying to minimize the amount of fertilizers that the farmers are allowed to use, but there's a lot of fertilizer being used, and it's seeping into the lakes, or into our Great Lakes. And if you look at the province of Manitoba, you can see that they are some of the biggest lakes in North America. Like, you can clearly see them on a map, and 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 they are getting polluted with fertilizers from the farm fields. They get washed into our lakes, and we can still tell that it's still happening, because the fishermen say they've never seen such huge fish come out of that lake as what they're finding now. And it's because these fish are eating the algae and eating all the fertilizer, right? That's making them grow to be so large. But there's a lot of chemicals, I would think, in that stuff too, right? So I think that's what their concern is about, that stuff washing into the water like that. Yeah, so here in Manitoba, there's lots of abandoned, and on top of that, as farms are amalgamated into larger farms and stuff, those houses, even from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, now are being abandoned, and they will be the next generation of urban exploration, right? Everything that goes away, comes back again, right? So urban exploration will be popular again down the road, and say another 50 or 100 years from now, those buildings from the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, they're going to be super interesting to urban explore, right? I like the old ones. I even watched an urban exploration, a couple of urban exploration. I still watch all my videos. There are urban explorers that I enjoy watching out there, but I don't like the ones with the beanies, right? The ones that people they break into the castles or break into these locked up houses and stuff, where somebody's passed away. I get really disillusioned, and I feel a little bit of shame to call myself an urban explorer when I see people in my category disrespect people's property like that. And I agree with you 100%. Super, super disrespectful, right? Especially when it's somebody else's property. I opened up a fresh can of coffee today, my McDonald's coffee that I opened up from Christmas, that I got for Christmas. I had a tin of coffee still, and I have a rule that I can't open up a tin of coffee until the last tin of coffee is open. And I love fresh coffee, that when you just open up the tin. And so I was pretty excited. This is my first cup of that new tin of coffee, and I'm certainly enjoying it 100%. Love coffee. I was going over some of the things, my purchases this week. I got these really nice paperweights, right? Look at this paperweight. It's Fenton. It's Fenton glass. It's an apple with controlled bubbles in it. I got this one for $1.50, and I got this one for, I think, $1. They're just beautiful. So I think I have 5 or 6 glass paperweights now. I really enjoy collecting glass. I really like art glass. I have this one too. I don't think I showed you guys this one. This is some art glass that I got. These little lovebirds. I picked these up at work too. I just love these 2 little lovebirds. Yeah, but I've really been enjoying art glass. Like, very strange, my taste in things, right? Have changed, and it's interesting to watch my taste change in things, and I also really enjoying the way my taste is changing. I find it to be very interesting, like my crystals, the way I'm collecting my crystals, my Buddhas, my fairies, my turtles, my frogs, my books, right? My beautiful mindset books here that I'm learning so much from. I got this new book here. It's called Ecocide, and it's about the extinction, how they think that we're moving into a mass extinction by the way we're treating our world, and how emotionally we're treating ourselves and each other, that we're heading down that road. And so I was just looking a little bit at this. They said that Australia, within their man's first step on that ground, they totally annihilated 85% of the wildlife. And it makes me imagine too how wildlife was annihilated, right? You hear about rabbits and foxes, but there must have been a time when Europe had saber-toothed tigers and bison and all kinds of neat bears, and these animals that you don't hear about anymore, right? Because their habitat has been changed so much. And again, Canada is very grateful, I'm sure, because we've learned through the other continents' mistakes and how they didn't take care of their country ecologically like we did. And so we picked up right away. We made those national parks and provincial parks. We protected the land, setting good rules with parks. right? Recreation. Yeah, we did good by other people's failures. And so any of our success should be attributed to anybody who was the beta, right? We were talking about this a little bit today about somebody has to start, somebody has to be the experience, somebody has to make the mistakes so that somebody else, it's like ants, right? I guess, oh, that's not a good analogy. I was going to say ants that die and then other ants crawl on top of them until eventually, right, they get to wherever they need to go. That wasn't a very good analogy, but sorta, right? Sorta. Yeah, I've never had a negative experience in any of my urban explorers, and I think I have over 100 of them. If you go to my main channel, my urban explorers, you could just hit the playlist, and all the videos should pop up in the playlist. But I never had a bad experience. I did fall on a rotting raccoon one time. There was a schoolhouse. I didn't show you guys in the video, but one of the one room schoolhouses that I went to, in the bottom of cupboard, I found a carcass of a cat that had gotten lost out in the farm fields and had curled up after it eaten all the mice, right? I guess it got trapped in the schoolhouse in the wintertime when the snow came, but when all the mice were gone, it died of freezing or starvation. But I found it all curled up. So it just went to sleep and just died in its sleep in this cubby hole in this old abandoned one room schoolhouse. I never got a bad feeling. I never got the spooks at all. I fell through the floor a couple of times in a couple of the buildings that I went into. But yeah, I had tons of fun. But I'm naturally an explorer. I am naturally unafraid, right, of these kind of things. Like it's a bit for me. That's adventure, right? For me, that's an adventure. And when I'm by myself, I feel safe because I don't have to concentrate on where that shoe is going to drop by somebody else's means because I'm by myself, right? When I'm like even right here, sitting here right now, somebody can knock on the door. Somebody could phone my call, and then my whole life could fall apart depending on what the topic of discussion is. When I was way out in the boonies and out on the road, right? When I was urban exploring and stuff, all my worries stayed at home. Everything. There was zero stress in my life. Of course, there were tons of problems. There were tons of money problems, tons of family problems, right? Lots of issues. But when I was on the road, that was my opportunity to leave everything at the back door and just take off. And I never once had a bad experience. Oh, I did have a couple of. Remember that time when I went to the suspension bridge? Do you remember that video? Pinawa Dam video. And I got stuck in the snow way out in the boonies. I'd been filming all day and I had almost no power left in my phone. And I somehow got a hold of somebody in a nearby town who knew somebody with a truck and they were going to send it out to me, right? I was way out nowhere. I was in the bush in a park in the middle of winter that nobody visited. And it was New Year's Day. It was New Year's Day. So, right? I couldn't believe it. I thought I was a dead person. I thought I was going to freeze in the snow. And surprisingly, a family in a big truck with big plow on it came down that old road that I was down to come down to the suspension bridge to take some New Year's Eve or New Year's Day pictures at the bridge. And they yanked me out of the snow, saved my butt, and I just took off out of there. The truck stopped and I offered to pay him, and he just said, Happy New Year. This is my good deed for the holidays. And I said, thank you so much. And it was the holidays. I was interrupting him from his day. And he came all the way out. And it was a couple of hours I was out there before that family showed up. They got me out there. And by the time I got out of there, it was about an hour later and came across that driver on the road. So it took him quite a while to get to me. And he was so kind and so generous to do that for me. Didn't charge me, and I was on my way. I didn't learn my lesson on that one. You guys know that because I told the story about the time that, oh, there's an interesting road. I was way out in the boonies, way out nowheres, and I was down in the valley. I was down in the valley around Brandon area, but a little bit south from there, and around, I guess around the Killarney. Was it around the Killarney area? No, maybe around the Killarney area, and it was all very hilly and everything. And I was in the provincial park, but I was driving down the highway and I saw this little road, and it was snowing. And there were lots of snow, but there was no plow or anything had gone in the road. And I had all-wheel drive, so I was going to go down this road because I knew there was an abandoned building down that road. And I drove down that road, and I must have driven for about an hour. But I wanted, by the time I got 100 feet into that road, I knew I had made a mistake. But I couldn't turn my car around. That's when I was driving my Chevy Trax. I couldn't drive the car around because the road was so small. If I tried to turn the car around, I would have gotten stuck in the bank and the snow would have piled up underneath. I didn't have a choice. So my only hope was to keep going and hoping I was going to come to another road. I drove for about an hour. And then after about an hour, I came to a farmstead. I did. It turned out that hour of driving was actually a driveway into somebody's land. And I was driving there 360 acres or whatever it was, and their house was way on the back end. And I said, oh, I can't go into their yard. And I went, and all I had to do was go another 50 feet, and I would have had a good clear spot where I could have turned the car around, and I could have stayed in my own car tracks and driven that hour out in my own tracks and been okay. But no, I said I took a chance and I turned, and exactly what I thought was going to happen if I had turned around happened. And thank goodness I was in my snow pants and my snow coat, and it was the coldest day of the year. It was well into its minus 40s, minus 50s with the wind chill. I tried to dig myself out of the car. 2 dogs came at me barking and like they were going to kill me. And I talked them out of doing that. Surprisingly, kept my friends for a little while. I saw cows roaming around in a barn. I knew, but I thought maybe the farmer might have just come to this property just to take care of the animals, that nobody lived in the building. But I thought I'd give it a shot. So I walked down to the farm. And I knocked on the door. Nobody answered the door. There were no lights. I just started bawling my eyes out. It was starting to get dark. And I said, well, the best you can do, Cindy, is just to wait for it to get dark and see if you can see any lights on the horizon, and then just walk through the snow to wherever the lights are. That was my plan. I was going to walk in the snow to any lights that I saw. Whether they were solar lights or not, I was going to walk towards them. And so I sat in my car for about an hour and a half, getting up the gumption. Okay, it's time to get ready, time to go. I geared up, looked at the car, ready to hit the field. And I looked at the house, the farmhouse, and I thought I saw a hint of a light, corner of a light. I went, oh, maybe I should go try one more time. After bawling my eyes out, my face was just like a big ice cube from crying, right? I walked down, knocked on the door, bawling my eyes out. That door swung open. It was a little old lady, about 80 years old. Oh dear, what are you doing here? And then her husband peeks around the corner. He's like ancient too. He must have been like 85, 90 years old. I told him what happened. And he said, well, warm up here. So I stood there and I warmed up. Then he said, follow me. And we went out to his barn, and he got this great big tractor and all his chains. And we jumped into his tractor, and he took me up to my car, and we worked for well over an hour. Finally, he hooked my car out and he pulled me down into his area so I could turn around. They were so nice to me. And they turned me around and they said, "Do you want to stay here tonight? Wait for morning." And I said, "No, I gotta get home," because at that time I had a deal with my sister. If I wasn't home by a certain time at night, if I hadn't phoned her, then she would call the police and send out the search parties for me, right? So I had to get home, and I was still 6 hours away from home. 6 hours, Brandon, 6 hours? 4 hours. 4 hours. I was 4 hours away from home at least. And then I just followed my tracks out. I got home safe and sound, but it was an experience for me. And then after that happened, I only did main roads. I didn't allow myself to go down any side roads in the winter time because it was a close call. If that farmer hadn't come home, and the only reason they weren't home the first time I knocked on the door, because there was another road behind their house, and when they came home, they came down that road. So I didn't even know that they had come home because I had come in the other way. So they had two roads coming. One coming to the front of the house, one coming through the back. And when they came home, they came through the back, so I didn't even see them get home, right? Yeah, so it was just lucky. And I never went urban exploring, again after that, down side roads in the wintertime, even when I did have four-wheel drive. And I had some good vehicles after that. Oh, wait a minute. I just thinking of another incident with my friend Joe. I took my friend Joe. It was a gentleman that I met in a head office. I was working in a cafeteria, and he was really, really nice guy, and he had high anxiety, very, very high anxiety, and I think probably a very spiritual guy to start with. But he was very brave, and right off the gumption, he was all into going exploring with me and spending the day with me and stuff. And I never went anywhere with anybody when it came to urban exploring. I didn't like to. It was something I used to like to do by myself, right? It was the urban exploration was for my YouTube channel, but the actual experience of the exploring, that was for me, right? That was for me. And so I enjoyed going off on my own. But this one time I took my friend Joe, and we had the most amazing adventure. I took him to the fort. I took him, and we built a big bonfire and had a barbecue. Then I took him down to the train station. Remember the abandoned train station? I bet you it's on the ground now. But I took him to the abandoned train station, and we roamed around the shanty town that was there. And we had a most amazing time. But why did I mention him? Because we went down a road, because I wanted to show him the lake that was by the piece of property where my fort was, but we couldn't find the lake. I ended up down a side road, and we ended up getting dangerously close to doing one of those U-turns that would have gotten us stuck and in big trouble. But we might have been okay, because at that time, that lake was very popular with the ice fishermen, right? So the fishermen would have been there, and they would have been doing their ice fishing. So we would have been okay anyway, no matter what. But yeah, I was breaking my own rule. No driving down side roads in the wintertime. But yeah, there were a few times that I got myself in situations, right? A couple of times when I could have fallen into a well because I didn't take my walking stick with me. There rotting floors where I could have fallen through the floor and hurt myself and not had my phone with me, right? Oh no, I always had my phone with me. That's not true. I always had my phone with me because I always used my phone when it came to filming my videos. Since day one, all my videos, all my explores, I used my film or my phones to film them. That's why some of them are not so good. Mind you, starting off, it was a process for me. But yeah, I should pull those videos out, re-edit them into the true adventures, like even the funny parts with me falling in the raccoons or falling through the floors or getting stuck in the snow or having a crying fit or right getting stuck with my limiting beliefs and working out the situation in the moments. Right? And then we could still have explores out there. I have all that footage, but I don't have an editing program right now. But I guess it wouldn't be too hard to download one, make some space on my computer, or buy another hard drive. I need another hard drive. Yeah, for sure. Okay, now I'm going to backtrack on some of these comments because I think I've missed some important conversations here. Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Donna. Right? I'm so sorry to hear, right? I remember you saying about your husband passing away. Life is doing a 360 on you, Donna, right? Bringing some big changes into your life right now. Try and ride those waves, dear, the best that you can, right? It'll be less painful because you don't know where God is going to drop you, right? He's done some big changes in your life and it's time hopefully maybe to settle down and maybe some good things can come into your life right now, dear, because you sounds like you could use some good things coming into your life. Oh, yes, you can count on the guys to pray for you 100%. Oh. 100%. But I find through my life it has always been that way. I wouldn't say I'm such an adventurer that I would be doing crazy things like jumping off of cliffs, mountain climbing, or skydiving or anything like that. That's not my thing. But my adventures too don't come without their difficulties, right? Without their challenges. And I live on the outside of the flame. They say that the hottest part of the flame is right around the edges. And they say if you can stay right around the edges, it's where you have the most control, the most the most control and the best view of what's going on. And I always seem to be at the very edges. I've always lived my way like that way and grateful when I get myself in situations that I can just sometimes just let it go and it just kind of sort of works itself out, right? I'm very grateful that it's done that way. There'll come a time maybe that won't be the story, right? But it seems that for the most part, that's what happens in my life. Just like that story of me getting stuck in the snow, right? Like even taking care of me when I go on my trips like that, right? When I went to Thunder Bay and took off by myself, so many things could have gone wrong, and little things did, right? Just little things, but not enough to make you so stressed out to make you feel like you're not having a good time, right? Laying in the car and having the water drip on you or not enough leg room and stuff. These are not reasons enough to give up on a fantastic trip because that trip was absolutely fantastic. I live for those. It's how we can take our beatings in life, right? Well, how we can overcome struggles, why we can say, right? No matter what, no matter how bad it is today, we're still going to be here tomorrow. Tomorrow is still coming, right? So why let it ruin your day? Why let it ruin this moment? Take the best joy out of this moment as you absolutely can, because what's the option? Dwell on the misery that's to come, right? That's how I look at it, right? I always look for the positive. I always look for the positive, and that works for me too, right? That's gotten me out of a lot of sticky situations. It really has. Not always. We all do for each other, right? We all do what we can for each other because we are all in this together, right? And I expect, because my ideas about life, about death, about reincarnation, about the people that are in our lives, and I expect that even if you guys, because we live in our digital age, that when we come back, we move into new lives, into new countries, new continents, new experiences, right? It's what helps us grow. It's what helps us evolve. It's evolution as far as I'm concerned, right? And so when you say, that I'm doing for others, I just understand that my movement forward depends on other people being able to move forward too, right? That's why we show up here on Sunday night. Can you imagine the past couple of years if we didn't have each other on Sunday night? That some of us might have struggled all on our own. Maybe some of us might not have even have bothered struggling, right? And wouldn't that be amazing if that was the case, right? If this Sunday, showing up here every Sunday, this crew showing up here every Sunday impacted even just one life. And I know for a fact that we have impacted lives. I know Andrew has impacted Nancy's life, right? Many times. I know that they have impacted my life, Owen and Andrew and Kathy and everybody who comes in and says one kind thing, or says one comment, or enters into the conversation. Even those that just sit in the background and just listen to the conversation, right? That just listen to the conversation. That's enough. It's just been a miserable couple of years, but we rode it. We got through it. We adapted, we conquered. My brand was urban explorating, or urban exploration, back road exploration, bushcraft, all these things that we do with Mother Nature, all these things that revolve around travel. And how much traveling have we been allowed to do in the past couple of years? Almost none. And yet, I got to go to Thunder Bay this past year, this past fall. I went to Thunder Bay. I went on a vacation, and it was amazing. And I felt it was vacation, even though I did intend to put a lot more content out. I did put content out there, but it was a reward for the work that I put in. I kind of forestalled the reward. And I think I moved myself forward last year. I think I helped to move other people move forward. I know for a fact that you guys helped me move forward. And I would like to think that I helped you guys move forward, right? Because we're a community, and nobody gets by without the person beside them. And I understand that 100%, right? We could motivate ourselves to move forward on our own, but how much fun is it, right? It's when we hang out together, when you can laugh at my funny stories about getting stuck in the snow, or get mesmerized by a story of close calls, right? That's the fun stuff. That's the stuff that keeps us going when life is not treating us good, right? It's the grandkids that come along, eh, Dave? It's the grandkids that come along. These COVID babies that are supposedly super smart and outsmart everybody. They were showing babies that were actually crawling on their hands and knees at 2 weeks old. 2 weeks old. And they were on their hands and knees trying to lift themselves off of their cribs, right? Yeah, it was really. Hello, Melvin. Aw. But it is really nice of you guys to say that. It really is. And I wish everybody, and it's going to be a much better 2022 is my year, right? It's my year. 22. That's my date of my birth, right? So this is going to be a good year for us. We're going to find like a lot of our problems are just going to kind of melt away. Things are going to get a lot better for us. The things that concerned us last year are not going to concern us so much this year. Andrew, do you remember how much work you did for your brother last year? Remember that? Moving him and settling him into his new place, getting all that paperwork done for him? How much hassle that was. We forget about all the hard work we put into our lives, right? When those troubles are over, we don't even want to think about them or deal with them anymore. We overcome them, we put them off to the side. But when you walk away from it and then look at it from a further distance, right? Doesn't it make you want to pat yourself on the back and say, man, I really did a good job on that. I might have grumbled the whole way through it. I probably don't want to do it again, right? But I probably don't have to do it again. I took my lessons, right? Because I'm sure there were lessons in those experiences. But you got through it and you did a good deed, right? Because you're doing right by your brother. And you can feel good about that self. But then again, like I said, after that moment's gone, after you've accomplished, after you've gotten rid of that obstacle, you totally forget that you went through it. I have to keep reminding myself. Well, it's really hard for me to forget because that 2020, I will never forget the year 2020. It was a pretty bad year. It was a pretty bad year for me. One of the most important relationships in my life fell apart. My jobs were falling apart. The roof of my head was threatened. I was on super stress. I was trying to save my brand. I lost my wheels. What got me out on the road? Those urban explorations. It's why I adapted and I conquered. And what else can I do? Right. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing live shows on Sunday night. And these live shows kept my our YouTube channel going, right? And then what did I do? I practiced. I kept working. I kept learning. I just went back online and I practiced. My Instagram, I just went onto Instagram and started posting every single day on Instagram. And I've been doing that for over 2 years now, showing up every single day on Instagram. But here, every Sunday, right? Show up every Sunday. Right? And then the COVID, but it all seemed like miracles, some things. Give me 1 second. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I find it very, very curious. Like I notice things. Not too much gets back past me. I look for answers and solutions in all kinds of things, in conversations, in serendipities, in all the coincidences, conversations that I have with strangers, conversations that I have with people at work, the mishaps I get into, right? The questions that I ask myself, and then the questions that other people ask me. And I think it always leads me places, right? But I remembered when I was going to go to Minneapolis, I was working full time in a cleaning service plant. They made carpets and uniforms. They would dry clean them and send them out to restaurants and hotels and stuff, change the carpets in the hallways and in the elevators, So I worked in that company, and my job was hanging up wet clothes when they came out of the washers, right? Oh, it was the physically hardest job I had ever done in my entire life. It was excruciating pain, and that is the truth. But I needed that job so bad. Oh, I needed to make money. My brand depended on it. At that time, my brand was the most important thing in my entire life. And at the same time, my apartment was being threatened, and my life was just starting to fall apart, right? And I remembered I felt like I was a bad luck charm in that company, because I came on the company, and then there was a couple of days where there was no hydro, and our plant did not work without the electricity, right? So it cost them lots of money. And then we had this great big, was a 20 or $30,000 chain that carried all the clothes to the hanging racks up in the ceilings. And that broke, and we got shut down for over a week. And then we also, or did we get shut down? We started hand bombing, and that cost a huge amount of money to rectify that situation. And then I thought I had that job down packed. I was actually on a what do you call that, trial for 90 days. I thought I was going to be asked to stay. I thought I was kicking butt. I thought I was learning the job. I thought I was progressing really well. I thought I was a team player. Even though the job was killing me, I really hated the job, but Spirit knew it wasn't for me. But Spirit also knew I wanted to go on this trip to Minneapolis, and they didn't hire me. They didn't get me to sign a contract, and I found myself without a job. I was desperate. I didn't even realize that I would be able to collect my unemployment. But I applied for my unemployment just in case. And then I had this money. I had already planned this trip, and I just said, hell, this is an opportunity, right? And my spidey senses says, Cindy, you go on this trip. You have the most amazing time. And I tell you, I had the most amazing time going to Minneapolis. I had the most amazing pride in myself when I went through the process of applying and paying for my passport to actually do the traveling into the States. uh, I had the car, and I put new tires on the car because the tires were bald, and I knew I wouldn't be able to make a trip, and I raised that money in order to put new tires. And I wasn't new tires. They were new tires, but they were new tires off of a new car that had gotten in a car accident, and the tires were brand new. So I just bought them for $250, and they were worth almost $2,000, these tires. And so I had my tires. It just, everything just fell into place. And these things that I thought were disasters in my life were actually things that were making opportunities for me to do what I want. I went on that amazing trip to Minneapolis. That trip to Minneapolis changed my life. It changed the direct directory of my life, where I was going to go with my life. It changed in the way of my beliefs instantly when I came back from that trip. And I remembered that when I came back from that trip, that I got verification that I got accepted for unemployment, and I was actually going to be able to take a few months off of and collect unemployment, so I would be able to pay my rent and my bills and have some time off. Uh, I wasn't expecting to have some time off. Uh, I needed that time off because I got thrown into an experience at that point after I came back from Minneapolis. I had an experience that changed my life. And I came back from Minneapolis. There was no way that I could have kept a job. I couldn't have kept a job for 15 minutes. In fact, I don't think I interacted with anybody for, I think, 2 months. This experience put me on such a trip for 2 months that I didn't think I could function properly. And I actually videotaped that whole process. I call it my Google Chronicles, where it was like a video diary. I would pull up my camera every week and I would talk about the lessons, right? I called them lessons right from the very beginning because I didn't know what they were. It was just a lot of information that was coming to me, a lot of beliefs that I found myself resonating with and believing immediately, things that never even crossed my mind in my entire life. And I was expected to take it in and believe it instantly. It was the most crazy experience. And yet, getting fired, and it wasn't getting fired, just wasn't signing me a contract for a full-time position, is what it was. That they ended my contract, that I was able to collect unemployment. And because I was able to collect unemployment, I was able to have that experience because if I hadn't had unemployment, I wouldn't have been able to hold down the job. There wasn't a chance. I wasn't in my right frame of mind. In fact, I thought I was going right off the deep end for at least 2 months. And after that, I started to settle down, but then I would have episodes, right? I would have episodes, and then it would take me a few days just to come out of those episodes. And then finally I started feeling better, right? And then I had better understandings. And then right. And then as I'm coming out of the opportunity to collect my unemployment, I got an opportunity to go to Toronto, and I said, oh, hell, let's do this, right? It worked so well last time. And it did. There were consequences for that. And I knew very well what those consequences were because I purposely didn't say anything to certain people that I was going on this trip. And sure enough, what I thought was going to happen happened, right? And I lost my car. But again, losing my car, I was devastated. Not because I lost the car, but because the car was taken away from me as retribution, as punishment, uh, with intent. It was the saddest, heartbreaking situation, and it was the downfall of the relationship with one of my siblings, right? One of my sisters, and it really, really hurt that relationship. And I found I had built walls, and at the same time, right, going through all of that, now we find ourselves in coronavirus. Now, you guys remember I was a compulsive gambler, right? I was gambling. This is how I calmed my system down. This is how I coped with my limiting beliefs and the projections upon me in those troubled times of not being able to keep a job and not having friends and not having people care about me, not feeling like I belong, not feeling like life was worth anything, right? Now we're in coronavirus. We find ourselves in coronavirus. And I have free time. And in having free time, I get mentorship. I find myself a full-time job that I enjoy with people I enjoy working with, something productive, something that provides value to the vulnerable. Oh my goodness, right? And in those 2 years of the coronavirus, I believe that I was able to recover from a gambling addiction. I have not touched any form of gambling in over 2 years. I'm going to congratulate myself on that. But I also going to recognize that circumstances played out in a way to allow that to happen, right? So I have to trust that everything's going to be okay because it repeatedly shows me consistently that everything is going to be okay, that I can ride on the edges of those hot spots, the flame on the candle, that I can hang out on that edge and almost go over, right? Or almost be put up into flames, but then retrieved, right at the last second, right? So I do believe that some circumstances that we think are absolutely the worst, that we can't take one more moment, that person's getting on our very last nerves, that we're going to pull our hair out, we're going to do something terrible to ourselves because life sucks so badly. Through my own experience, and this is the truth, if you guys have been hanging out with me for any length of time, that situations play themselves out in a way to make miracles happen, to bring about the changes that you most desperately need and most desperately want. And I believe that 100%. And that's why I carry on. This is why I don't give up, because I have been shown that proof, right? Just in the past few years, how everything played out, right? The universe wanted me out of that apartment. That universe wanted me to have change in my life. Did I not get change? I was in that apartment for over 20 years. I was in that apartment, stuck in my lack of being able to make change in my life, to be so frozen in my own despair, I guess, that my own non-belief, I guess, right? That things could be better, that I didn't even make a move. So circumstances, the way they played out, even in the moment where they feel very painful, very scary, I trust that they're for our best, that there's a reason for it, that it's going to play out. And for you, dear, and I'm going to talk specifically to Mrs. Sister Donna Cantor, like, you've had a rough year, dear, right? Lots of you have had a rough year. Andrew, you've had a rough year. Lots of you have had bad years, right? But things are going to get better. Things are just twisting us around just in a better direction so that we're in front of what we're supposed to receive instead of what we're supposed to receive hitting us on the back and us not turning around to collect it, right? And I believe that 100%. And I hope some amazing things come into your life. I believe it. I believe in my life that there's some amazing things. And even if I don't know what they are, I am here and I'm playing that story out. I'm playing that story out. And I'm preparing for whatever, right, might come across my path. But at the same time, I want to have a good time with this, right? I want to have a good time with this. I want to be around people that I care for and people who care for me. And again, that's why I'm here on Sunday nights with you guys, right? Okay, let's look at some of these comments, see what you guys are chatting about. Let's have some coffee because I can feel my voice is kind of going here. And that's the thing. And even though it's not over, Andrew, right? The COVID is not over. This Omicron, this variant that's going around, oh my goodness, it hit Winnipeg, it hit Manitoba so badly. We went from having under 100 people getting tested every day to over 1,000 people getting tested every day with this new virus that's going on right now, right? Now they're going to probably have to do a lockdown. We're only contagious, we're only contagious for about 4 or 5 days, they say, we're really contagious. So if they did what do they call that? A civil lockdown, where they lock everybody down. And if you're caught on the streets, right, you give everybody a few days notice, right? So that everybody can get toilet paper and video games and books, whatever they need to keep themselves busy. Everybody gets locked down for 1 week. Everybody. Now, the thing is, those numbers of the virus are going to rage, right? Because obviously we're going to be locked down with some people who do have the virus. But because it's only contagious for those few days, right, where we're actually in that contagious stage, that if we just play it safe, if we could just stay in our beds and suffer through that coronavirus in our households, locked down for that week, right? And these variances, they're saying it's like a bad flu for a lot of people. And I can see in the intensive care units here in Manitoba that those numbers in the intensive care units are still in the 20s, right? So it's not like those 1,000 people are going to all end up in the intensive care unit. A few of them might enter into the hospital, but because we're 97% vaccinated, double vaccinated here in Manitoba, and I am going for my booster shot. I'm going to get another booster shot. We're not going to die if we get the virus. That's the good thing, right? People who haven't got the vaccination are 26 times more likely to catch the virus than we are, right? Oh, to end up in the hospital with the coronavirus, 26% higher. We are people with the coronavirus who haven't been vaccinated are 17% higher chance of dying. And I could pull up the stats right now for that, of dying and ending up in the intensive care units. You know, everybody has a choice about getting the virus, getting the vaccinations and not getting the vaccination. That's a free choice. I wouldn't even tell anybody that they have. I have 2 members of my own family who have made that difficult choice not to be vaccinated. But at the same time, it has made it difficult for us to be together, right? You know, because we have to take care of these members that they don't get sick, but at the same time, they've got to take care of us too so that we don't get sick. So here it is. People who are not fully vaccinated are 3 times more likely to test positive for COVID-19. 3 times more likely. People who are not fully vaccinated are 9 times more likely to be hospitalized with COVID-19. Right? 9 times more likely. People who are not fully vaccinated are 26 times more likely to be admitted to an intensive care unit with COVID-19. 26 times, right? People who are not fully vaccinated are 17 times more likely to pass away from COVID-19. Those are the stats. Those are pretty high, right? You know, yes, more people who are vaccinated are being tested positive for the coronavirus, but we're 97% vaccinated here in Manitoba. Of course, we are going to have more stats in the positive range than the people who are not fully vaccinated because there's less of them. But it's right. But again, it's we all get to make our own choices. And because I believe in cause and effect, I do not want to be responsible for anybody getting sick and especially passing away 100%. I am grateful I tested negative for the coronavirus, but I was convinced I had it for 2 days. I was convinced that I had the coronavirus for 2 days. Oh my goodness, I didn't even notice that it was after 9 o'clock, you guys. I'm just yapping away. Oh, thanks, Owen. Yeah, I remembered the hassle. I'm glad you got your shot, though, Nancy. I'm really glad that you got your shot of all people. Yeah. But yeah, it's all a matter of choice. There's no right, no wrong. But I would hope, right? Because somebody made a really good statement about the vaccination, right? We're moving forward. We're modern man. We're conscious man. We're moving forward. This is science, right? This is not the Stone Age. We're not caveman. We don't have to endure these plagues that come into the world because in science we have innovated so much that I want to be a part of that innovation. I don't have to just suffer with the diseases of the world, right? It's just like when I lost all that weight and I had saggy boobies, like I was able to go in and have plastic surgery and fix that up. And thank you, science, and thank you for technology for giving me that opportunity to have nice looking boobs, right? But that's the idea. This is the way technology grows. This is growth, right? I'm moving forward with technology. I might be an old fogey, right? But I'm here, you guys, and I'm moving forward and I trust doctors. I trust science and I do not want to be left behind when it comes to the possibilities of something a little bit better. We have to trust, right? We have to trust. Things only come better by trying them out. Can you imagine the first passenger that got on a passenger airplane? Oh my goodness, that must have been the scariest flight ever, right? But now planes are an hourly thing. Every minute there's a plane going off, taking off, and landing in the world, right? And that's because mankind is moving forward, right? We're trusting in the technology. I'm not staying in caveman days, you guys. I just really am not. And I do believe science is made great strides in medicine. I mean, just look at insulin, what they've done with insulin. Look at the research and the cures that they're coming up with to help with cancer and with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. These are things that mankind are not going to have to deal with in the future because we're putting that work into it right now. And yeah, I have no problems. If they're divvying out booster shots, 100%, I'm in. Okay, everybody. I think that's our Sunday night. That's our Sunday night. I hope everybody has an amazing, amazing week. I hope everybody is staying safe. Uh, yeah. If you have any problems, if you want to talk to me, you can DM me through Instagram. I am home for the next couple of days. If you want to have a private conversation, if you want to do a Zoom call with me, I would be happy to do that. I'm happy to talk about anything. I'm happy if you even want to come and join us on our Instagram. I go live every single day on Instagram every single morning. If you are wanting to come live with me and have a conversation, oh my goodness, right? Who knows what I'll learn or you'll learn or people who are listening to our conversation will learn, right? You never know. But in any case, you guys, we'll see you next Sunday. I'm going to get something nice and cold to drink because I have been talking all day long. Okay, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.